With the different times that we are in due to the coronavirus, we pastors are just having to rethink how we are doing things. Our mission, our call remains the same, to shepherd and care for and pastor the flock, the people that God has brought into our midst. So that remains the same, but obviously we are having to kind of rethink how to do some of that, not being encouraged to meet face-to-face with people. So as part of just thinking through that and trying to figure out how to best pastor in this season, one of the things that I wanted to do is just do a weekly, God willing, video devotional. So that is what I'm going to attempt to do today. The other reason to do this is that we are going to be, like most churches across the country, streaming services starting this week for, we're saying for at least the next couple weeks, could be longer. So this is kind of a trial run also for just figuring out the technology side of that and just making sure everything works. So hopefully, if this all goes well, we'll be streaming to Facebook Live and YouTube at the same time. So if you haven't already, you can like Roots Church on Facebook so that you'll receive updates when we're going live. Same thing, you can go find the Roots Church YouTube page and like that. And what's nice about the YouTube option is that if you have a smart TV, you can pull up YouTube and you'll be able to watch our Sunday services there. We're going to do services live at 10:30 on Sundays, so I invite you all to join us. This is obviously a different time for all of us. It's a time of suffering, whether with the health conditions associated with the coronavirus. Increasingly, we know there's going to be a lot of economic just fallout and suffering from this. For me at this time, and I think for a lot of people, it's just a time of a lot of unease and feeling unsettled and just weird and not knowing how to think about things and proceed. I'm finding it very hard to just go through my regular rhythms, very hard to focus, just completely thrown me off. I know for many other people, it's much more intense like that, and there's a lot of people suffering, but to some degree, all of us are dealing with some suffering. There's just an overarching unease at the very least. So in today's devotional, I want to let me just give you a big idea, and then I'm going to read a Bible verse and just offer a few thoughts on that. So the big idea is this, and this is something I talk about quite a bit when I'm talking to people and who are struggling with various things. It's just the idea of suffering well. Whatever degree of suffering we might be facing, whether it's just this unease, anxiety, fear, whether it's pain, whether it's loss, we have an opportunity to suffer well. This isn't to make light of the difficult circumstances we or others find ourselves in, but it is to encourage us to make the most of them. There are certainly times when it's appropriate to mourn, and we feel various emotions, and we ask questions, and we wonder what God's doing, and we, if you read the Psalms, you get this freedom from them to feel various emotions in difficult times, and it's okay and right to do that. But at the same time, difficult opportunities, difficult situations, trials and suffering present us with that opportunity to grow in a way that times of ease and comfort don't often, and often at a much greater rate. So with that's kind of the big idea. How do we suffer well, and why should we even care to do that? So let me read a few verses from 1 Peter chapter 1 about this, and then just offer a few thoughts on that for today. So 1 Peter chapter 1, starting in verse 3, and we'll read through verse 7, but really we're going to focus on verses 6 and 7. So starting at verse 3, "Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. According to his great mercy, he has caused us to be born again to a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, to an inheritance that is imperishable, undefiled, and unfading, kept in heaven for you, who by God's power are being guarded through faith for a salvation ready to be revealed in the last time. In this you rejoice, though now for a little while, if necessary, you have been grieved by various trials, so that the tested genuineness of your faith, more precious than gold that perishes though it is tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. So, if we are to suffer well, we have to know a few things. First of all, we have to know who God is. We have to know that God is sovereign over all things. If God is not sovereign over all things, including hard times, including trials and suffering, we don't have a lot of hope. If it's out of his hands and it's out of our hands, we don't have a lot of hope. Secondly, if we're to suffer well, we have to know that we belong to God, that we are among his people who have been born again to a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and that God is good to us, not only sovereign, but his goodness is in everything he does. He is good to us. He's loving. He's merciful. He's kind. He's gracious. That God's goodness is for us. And then thirdly, we have to know that this life is not all there is, and that maximizing pleasures and comforts and ease is not the meaning or purpose to life. We live in light of an inheritance, Peter says, that is imperishable, undefiled, and unfading, kept in heaven for you, who by God's power are being guarded through faith for salvation. We have to know in the midst of our suffering that this is not a break from reality. This is not that life is not put on hold, that even meaning and purpose and joy and peace are not put on hold in times of suffering. There is purpose for our suffering in life under a sovereign good God. So that leads to verse 6 and 7. In this you rejoice. So having described this salvation, Peter says, in this you rejoice. So in all circumstances, in difficult times, in easy times, in this we have the basis, we have the foundation, we have the ability to rejoice in all things because of who God is, because of who we are as his people, and because of the hope and promises that he's given us. And then it goes on, for a little while, if necessary, you have been grieved by various trials. It's an interesting group of words there. If necessary, you have been grieved by various trials. We don't often think of trials as necessary. Of course, we don't willingly put ourselves in trying situations. We don't go out looking for them. But in God's providence, trials are necessary. They may be necessary. And then Peter goes on, describing the reason for them, the reason why they're necessary, so that the tested genuineness of your faith, more precious than gold, that perishes though it is tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. Tested genuineness of your faith. So, trials are necessary, and trials present us with an opportunity to have the genuineness of our faith confirmed, tested, confirmed. What could be more valuable than to have confirmation, to have evidence upon evidence that you don't just claim Christ with your words. You don't just go through the motions of religion and Christianity or morality and ethics, but that Christ has a hold of you, that his Spirit is in you, and that you are alive to him. And that in good times and in bad, he is working in you and strengthening you and keeping you, and you are continuing to hold on to him. That's what difficult times, that's what trials can do. They confirm our faith. And what greater comfort and joy than to have this evidence that we are really his, that he has grabbed a hold of us. I was thinking of it, it's kind of like an athlete, like an amateur athlete who wants to make it on the big stage, or perhaps a musician, an amateur musician who wants to make it in the biggest symphony in the world. And as long as they remain like in their hometown, in their house, perhaps with a few friends, playing, they might think they're great. They might feel really confident about their ability, about the genuineness of their talent. But until they are put on that big stage, they don't really know if they have what it takes. But once they're there, and once they are in that arena, they have the opportunity to have what they thought and hoped was true confirmed. Similarly, in trials, we have the opportunity to, in a way that times of ease and comfort don't really present as much, a way to have our faith strengthened and confirmed and proved to us, to others, and to have greater assurance. So, that's just what I wanted to present today. Whatever level of suffering or just unease or discomfort you are experiencing now or will be over the next few weeks, I encourage you to lean into it. Don't miss the opportunity that times like this present to grow and mature and be strengthened, and to ask questions that you hadn't been asking, to devote yourself and become more dependent on God, to lean into prayer, and all of these things. Suffer well.